Dustin Reeding, the self-made $1.2 billion CEO of NexusFlow, is tech's latest boy wonder. But his success attracts more than just investors. It brings back the biological family who abandoned him at age 5. Follow Dustin's intense journey as his estranged parents and siblings resurface, demanding a piece of his empire. Choosing family over genetics, a tech billionaire's search for authenticity and love after abandonment. A romantic comedy in several unfortunate acts. Part 1, in which our hero discovers that success is a magnet for terrible people. Dustin Reeding was having the kind of morning that would make most people suspect they were living in a pharmaceutical commercial. The kind where someone jogs through a park, laughing at nothing, while golden retrievers materialize from thin air. He stood in his penthouse apartment, all 6'3" of him, watching the San Francisco fog roll past his windows like nature's screensaver, sipping coffee that cost more per pound than his childhood wardrobe. The irony wasn't lost on him. 20 years old, CEO of NexusFlow, the tech company that had revolutionized cloud computing in ways that made even Amazon nervous. And he still took his coffee black because adding milk felt wasteful. Some childhood habits die hard, especially when that childhood involved a 5-year-old being dropped off at his grandmother's house with a note that essentially said, "Good luck with this one." His phone buzzed. 63 unread messages, 12 missed calls, and it was only 7 a.m. He scrolled through the notifications with the enthusiasm of someone reviewing their dental surgery bills. 3 were from his PR team about the upcoming TechCrunch interview. 15 were from venture capitalists who apparently didn't understand what "we're not looking for additional funding" meant. 22 were LinkedIn requests from people with entrepreneur, visionary, thought leader in their bios, which was basically the professional equivalent of wearing a shirt that said, "I have no actual skills." And then there were the others, the ones that made his jaw tighten. "Hey Dustin, it's Dad. We should talk." "Dustin, this is your mother. I've been thinking about you. Call me?" "Hey bro, it's Kyle, your brother. Crazy coincidence I found you on Facebook. We should catch up." "Funny," Dustin said to his empty apartment, "how everyone suddenly discovered my phone number now that Forbes put me on their 30 under 30 list." His grandmother's voice echoed in his memory. "Baby, some people are like seagulls at the beach. They only show up when you've got food." Gran had been right about most things. She'd passed away 2 years ago, exactly 3 months before NexusFlow's Series A funding round that had valued his company at $400 million. She'd never lived to see him vindicated, successful, or disgustingly wealthy. The universe had a terrible sense of timing. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered with the caution of someone who'd learned that unknown numbers were either debt collectors or long-lost relatives, and at this point, he wasn't sure which was worse. "Mr. Reeding?" A woman's voice, professional, cool. "This is Jessica from TechCrunch. Just confirming your interview this afternoon at 2? "Confirmed," Dustin said. "Should I prepare for the usual questions? What's your morning routine? What's your favorite productivity hack? How do you maintain work-life balance while secretly surviving on Red Bull and existential dread?" Jessica laughed. "Actually, we'd like to focus more on your backstory, the whole self-made narrative. Readers love that stuff." "Right," Dustin said flatly. "Everyone loves a good poverty-to-penthouse story. Really warms the cockles, whatever those are." "You're funny," Jessica said. "That'll play well on camera." After he hung up, Dustin stared at his reflection in the window. Handsome, people said, though he'd never quite seen it. His face was just his face, the same one that had watched his mother's taillights disappear 15 years ago, the same one that had eaten breakfast for dinner more times than he could count, the same one that had taught himself to code at the library because Gran couldn't afford a computer. Now, that face was worth approximately $1.2 billion, according to the latest valuation. Funny how adding zeros made people suddenly interested in saying hello. Part 2, in which our hero meets someone who doesn't want his money. Probably. The TechCrunch offices were exactly what Dustin expected. Exposed brick, whiteboard walls covered in startup wisdom like fail fast and disrupt everything, and enough MacBooks to solve a small nation's computing needs. He was directed to a studio space where lights were positioned with the precision of a military operation. Mr. Reeding, a man with a beard that suggested both tech innovator and artisanal cheesemaker, approached with an outstretched hand. I'm Marcus. We spoke on the phone. Jessica's running a few minutes late, but... It's fine, Dustin said, settling into the guest chair. It was one of those designer things that looked artistic, but felt like sitting on a theoretical concept. The door opened, and Dustin looked up expecting Marcus's colleague. Instead, he got a hurricane in human form. She was maybe 5'6", with dark hair pulled into a messy bun that suggested she'd been too busy doing interesting things to care about professional styling. She wore jeans, a blazer that had seen better days, and Converse sneakers. She was carrying a coffee cup, 3 folders, and what appeared to be a breakfast burrito. I'm not late, she announced to the room. Time is a social construct, and I reject its oppressive narrative. Marcus sighed. Jessica, you're 17 minutes late. 17 minutes early to my next appointment, she countered, setting her belongings down with the organized chaos of a tornado arranging lawn furniture. She turned to Dustin, and he found himself looking at eyes that were simultaneously warm and sharp, like being welcomed by a very intelligent knife. Dustin Reeding, she said, extending a hand. The boy wonder himself. How does it feel to be tech's latest darling? Exhausting, Dustin said, shaking her hand. How does it feel to eat burritos before 9 a.m.? Revolutionary, Jessica said without missing a beat. Breakfast foods are a conspiracy by Big Brunch. All foods are fair game at all times. I like her, Dustin said to Marcus. Nobody asked, Marcus replied, adjusting cameras. The interview started professionally enough. Jessica asked about NexusFlow's origin story, the technical innovations, the growth trajectory. Dustin delivered his rehearsed answers with the enthusiasm of someone reading terms and conditions. But then Jessica leaned forward, and he saw a shift in her expression, from journalist to person. Let's talk about the interesting part, she said. You started coding at, 10 years old? 11, Dustin corrected. The library had a computer literacy program. I thought it was about learning to read better. Ended up learning Python instead. Raised by your grandmother, right? Right. Parents? And there it was. The question everyone eventually asked, usually with that particular tone of voice that suggested they already knew the answer and were excited to watch him perform his trauma for their content. Not in the picture, Dustin said carefully. By choice? Theirs. Jessica nodded, and Dustin was surprised to see something in her expression that wasn't pity. It was understanding. That must be complicated now. You have no idea. Actually, Jessica said, I might. My dad left when I was 7. Showed back up at my college graduation because someone told him I'd gotten a job at Google. Suddenly he was interested in my promising future. Dustin felt something shift in his chest. What did you do? Told him I worked at TechCrunch, not Google. He left before the ceremony ended. That's honest, Jessica supplied. Yeah. Look, Dustin. Can I call you Dustin? You've been calling me Dustin for the past 20 minutes. Fair point. What I'm trying to say is, everyone wants to hear the rags to riches story, the scrappy kid who made good, but nobody wants to talk about the part where success reveals exactly who people really are, including your family. Dustin stared at her. In that moment, he made a decision that was either brilliant or catastrophically stupid. Time would tell. Are you free for lunch? Jessica blinked. Is that a professional invitation or... I have no idea, Dustin admitted. I just know that you're the first person I've met in 6 months who seems like an actual human being and not a LinkedIn profile come to life. Marcus coughed. We're still recording. Cut that part, Jessica said quickly. Already done, Marcus said, definitely not cutting it. Part 3, in which family matters become inconvenient. Lunch was at a taco truck that Jessica insisted made life-changing al pastor, which seemed hyperbolic until Dustin actually tried it. They sat on a bench in Dolores Park, watching people walk dogs that cost more than used cars. So, Jessica said, devastating her third taco with impressive efficiency, what's the real story with your family? Getting straight to it, huh? I'm a journalist. Subtle isn't in the job description. Dustin watched a tech bro throw a frisbee to his labradoodle. The real story is that I haven't seen my parents since I was 5. My grandmother, Gran, she raised me, worked 2 jobs, made sure I stayed in school, died before she could see any of this pan out. He gestured vaguely at himself, encompassing both his person and his billion-dollar valuation. That's heavy, Jessica said softly. The heavy part is what happened after Forbes published that article. Suddenly, I'm getting Facebook friend requests from people who share my DNA but not my history. My dad, and I use that term loosely, sent me a LinkedIn connection request. My mother tried to follow me on Instagram, and apparently I have a brother named Kyle who really wants to reconnect over drinks. Let me guess, they all have business ideas they'd like to discuss? My dad's is a cryptocurrency startup. My mother wants to open a wellness spa. Kyle's pitch was literally, I'll tell you when I see you. Jessica nearly choked on her taco. That's amazing. Horrible, but amazing. The worst part is everyone expects me to just, what? Welcome them with open arms? These are people who couldn't be bothered with my existence when I was eating cereal for dinner, and now they expect a seat at the table because we share genetic material? What does your team say? My lawyer says to ignore them. My PR person says it's a delicate situation that requires sensitive handling, which is PR speak for this could blow up in your face either way. And my CFO suggested I hire security. Have you responded to any of them? No? Are you going to? Dustin was quiet for a moment, watching the fog start to roll back in across the city. I don't know. Part of me wants to tell them exactly where they can shove their sudden interest in my life. Another part of me wonders if I'm being unfair. Maybe people change. Maybe they genuinely regret their choices. And the third part? Jessica asked. The third part knows that everyone changes when there's money involved. That's not growth. That's just opportunism with better marketing. Jessica nodded slowly. Can I give you some unsolicited advice? Can I stop you? Not really. Here it is. You don't owe them anything. Not your time, not your money, not your attention. Family is supposed to be the people who show up when things are hard, not when things are profitable. Strong words from someone I met 3 hours ago. Weak words from someone who's been through it, Jessica countered. My dad? I let him back in. Thought I was being mature, being the bigger person. You know what happened? He borrowed $20,000 for a business opportunity, disappeared, and I never saw him or the money again. Jesus. Yeah, so when I say you don't owe them anything, I'm speaking from expensive experience. She crumpled her taco wrapper. But here's the thing. Whatever you decide, make sure it's what you want. Not what looks good for your image, not what seems right, but what you actually want. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with it. Dustin studied her. This woman he'd just met, who ate breakfast burritos and rejected temporal oppression, and somehow understood exactly what he was struggling with. Can I ask you something potentially weird? All the best questions are potentially weird. Would you want to get dinner? Like a date dinner. Not a professional dinner or a networking dinner or any other kind of dinner that exists on LinkedIn. Jessica raised an eyebrow. Are you asking me out? I'm either asking you out or having a stroke. The symptoms are surprisingly similar. She laughed. A real laugh, not the polite professional kind. Okay. Yes, okay. But I'm picking the place, because your lunch suggestion was a taco truck, which means you either have excellent taste or no idea what you're doing. Both. Definitely both. Part 4, in which everything goes sideways as it must. The date was set for Friday. Dustin spent the intervening days in back-to-back meetings about market expansion and cloud architecture, but his mind kept drifting to a woman who challenged his burrito choices and understood abandonment issues. Thursday afternoon, his assistant Priya knocked on his office door. She had that expression, the one that meant problems. Your mother is in the lobby, she said without preamble. Dustin's hand froze over his keyboard. Excuse me? Rebecca Reeding. She says she's your mother. Security asked if they should send her away. She's crying. Of course she was. That's not my problem. She says she just wants 5 minutes. She had 5 years. Tell her. Dustin stopped. He thought about Jessica's advice, about making choices he could live with. Actually, send her up. Priya's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded and left. Dustin had exactly 90 seconds to prepare for a conversation 15 years in the making. He spent them staring at his computer screen and wondering if there was an app for dealing with estranged parents. NexusFlow should create one. They'd make millions.
I love making these videos for you. If you liked this story, then please like, subscribe to my channel, and switch on the notifications for more entertaining stories. Please also leave a comment for any story suggestions.
The woman who walked into his office bore some resemblance to the fragmented memories he'd carried. Same blonde hair, now professionally highlighted. Same blue eyes, now lined with expensive makeup. She wore designer clothes and carried a Prada bag. She looked like success. She looked like someone who had definitely not worked 2 jobs to raise a child. "Dustin," she said, and her voice cracked on the single syllable. "Rebecca," he replied, because she'd lost the right to mom a long time ago. She flinched. "Good. You look so grown up." "That's what 15 years will do." "I know you're upset." "I'm not upset," Dustin interrupted. "I'm indifferent. There's a difference." "Please, I just want to explain." "Explain what? How you decided that your 5-year-old son was too inconvenient? How you dumped me with Gran and never looked back? How you missed every birthday, every Christmas, every single moment of my life, until Forbes decided I was worth writing about?" He kept his voice level, professional. This was just another negotiation. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "I was young. I was scared. Your father and I were adults who made choices. And now you want to make different choices because the stakes have changed." Dustin leaned back in his chair. "Let me guess. You're here because you care about me, because you've always cared, because you made a mistake and you want to make it right." "Yes," she whispered. "And it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm worth over $1 billion? Dustin." "Here's what's going to happen," Dustin said. "You're going to leave. You're not going to contact me again. You're not going to tell your friends about your successful son. You're going to go back to whatever life you built without me and stay there." "You don't mean that." "I absolutely mean that. You don't get to be part of my success when you wanted nothing to do with my struggle." Rebecca stood there, mascara starting to run. "Your grandmother would be disappointed in you." That landed. That actually hurt. Gran would be disappointed that it took you 15 years and a Forbes article to remember you had a son. "We're done here. I have rights." "You have nothing," Dustin said coldly. "Legally, emotionally, morally, nothing. Security will show you out." After she left, Dustin sat in his office, hands shaking slightly. He'd thought confronting her would feel empowering, cathartic. Instead, he just felt tired. His phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. "Still on for tomorrow? I found a place that serves breakfast burritos for dinner." Fighting the establishment, one meal at a time. Despite everything, he smiled. Part 5, in which romance gets complicated, because of course it does. Friday night, Jessica took him to a place in the Mission that looked like someone's grandmother's kitchen had merged with a dive bar and somehow created magic. They sat in a corner booth covered in stickers from bands that definitely weren't on Spotify. "How are you?" Jessica asked, and something in her tone suggested she actually wanted to know. Dustin told her about Rebecca's visit, about the confrontation, about how it felt both satisfying and hollow. "You did the right thing," Jessica said. "Did I? Or am I just another rich asshole who forgot where he came from?" Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, but in this case, you're overthinking it. She literally only showed up because you're successful. That's not a parent, that's a prospector. Harsh. True. Their food arrived. Jessica had not been lying about the breakfast burritos. They ate in comfortable silence for a moment before Jessica spoke again. "Can I ask you something?" "Seems only fair." "Why me?" Dustin looked up. "What?" "You're Dustin Reeding. You could date anyone. Models, actresses, other tech CEOs with better taste in footwear." She gestured at her Converse. "Why ask out a journalist who eats burritos at inappropriate times?" "Those are exactly the reasons," Dustin said. "Everyone else wants something from me. You just wanted to eat lunch." "I wanted a story," Jessica corrected. "But you treated me like a person first. Do you know how rare that is? Jessica was quiet for a moment. I like you, Dustin, but I need you to know something. I can't be another thing you acquire. I'm not a company or an investment or a solution to your family problems. I'm not looking for a solution, Dustin said. I'm looking for someone who gets it, who understands what it's like when everyone wants a piece of you, but nobody actually wants you. That's heavy for a first date. We covered abandonment issues at lunch. I figure we're already past the small talk phase. Jessica laughed, and Dustin felt something in his chest loosen. Okay, fine, but I have rules. Of course you do. 1, I'm paying for half. I don't care about your net worth. 2, no Instagram official stuff. My life is not content. 3, if this gets weird, we talk about it. No ghosting, no games. Those seem reasonable. Good. Now tell me about your company, the real story, not the TechCrunch version. So he did. He told her about the late nights in Grant's living room, teaching himself to code. About his first freelance job at 15, building a website for a local bakery for $200 that he'd thought was a fortune. I wanted to make something useful, Dustin said. Something that actually solved problems instead of creating new ones. And then it worked. And suddenly, everyone treated me differently. Like I was different. But I'm the same person who used to steal Wi-Fi from coffee shops to do homework. You're not the same person, Jessica said gently. You're older, richer, more successful. That changes you, whether you want it to or not. The question is whether it changes you into someone you like. Deep thoughts at 9 p.m. on a Friday. Best time for deep thoughts. After dinner, before existential dread. They talked until the restaurant closed. Then they walked through the Mission, past murals and street art, through neighborhoods that reminded Dustin of where he'd grown up. Before the money, before the success, before everything got complicated. Can I kiss you? He asked when they reached her apartment building. That depends, Jessica said. Are you going to make it weird? Probably. Good. I don't trust people who don't make things weird. The kiss was exactly what a first kiss should be. Awkward and perfect and full of potential. When they pulled apart, Jessica was smiling. That was adequately weird, she declared. High praise. The highest. Same time next week. It's a date. Part 6, in which everything comes to a head. Literally and metaphorically. The next 3 weeks were a blur of board meetings and dinner dates, venture capital pitches and stolen kisses, family drama and falling in love. Though Dustin wasn't quite ready to admit that last part, even to himself. His father showed up at a tech conference Dustin was keynoting, just appeared in the Q&A section, and asked a question about family values in business that was clearly designed to put Dustin on the spot. Dustin had answered. Family values start with showing up, consistently, not just when it's profitable. The room had erupted in awkward applause. Kyle, his supposed brother, tried to ambush him at his gym. That had ended with security escorting him out, while Kyle yelled about blood being thicker than water, apparently not knowing that the full saying was, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which literally meant the opposite. Through it all, Jessica was there. Not fixing things, not offering solutions, just there. Present, steady, real. They're not going to stop, she said one night, lying in his bed, looking at the ceiling of his penthouse. You know that, right? I know. So what are you going to do? What can I do? Get a restraining order? That looks great in the press. Tech CEO legally bans family. The optics are terrible. Since when do you care about optics? Since my board started asking questions about family drama affecting company image. Jessica rolled over to face him. Dustin, real talk. What do you want? I want them to disappear. I want to go back in time and have Gran still be alive. I want none of this to matter. Okay, but we can't time travel, yet, and wishing won't make them disappear. So, what's your actual play here? Dustin was quiet for a long moment. I want to tell them exactly what I think of them. Publicly. No more playing nice, no more taking the high road. I want everyone to know that these people abandoned their kid and only came back for the money. Okay. Yeah, do it. Call a press conference. Tell your story. Own it. My board will kill me. Your board works for you, not the other way around. And if you let these people lurk in the shadows, they'll always have power over you. Bring it into the light, and you take that power back. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's terrifying and potentially career-ending. But it's honest, and I think you're tired of not being honest. She was right. He was so tired. Part 7, in which our hero makes a choice. The press conference was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Dustin's PR team had strenuously objected. His lawyers had threatened to resign. His board had called an emergency meeting. He did it anyway. The room was packed with journalists, cameras, and curious onlookers. Dustin stood at the podium, wearing jeans and a NexusFlow t-shirt instead of his usual tech CEO uniform, and cleared his throat. "Thanks for coming," he started. "I'm sure you're expecting some announcement about funding or acquisitions or whatever tech companies usually announce, but I'm here to talk about something else. Family." He saw reporters lean forward, sensing a story. "When I was 5 years old, my parents dropped me off at my grandmother's house and never came back. No explanation, no support, no contact. My grandmother, Gran, raised me by herself, worked 2 jobs, made sure I stayed in school, taught me about responsibility and showing up and doing the hard things." The room was silent. Gran died 2 years ago, 3 months before NexusFlow Series A. She never got to see me succeed. She never got to enjoy any of the money or the recognition or the security that this company has created. The person who actually deserved all of this never got to have it. Dustin paused, making eye contact with the cameras. "But you know who has shown up? My parents, my siblings, people I haven't seen or heard from in 15 years have suddenly remembered I exist. And it's a funny thing, this timing. Really coincidental how they all found me right after Forbes published that article." He could see some journalists already typing furiously. "I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm sharing it because I'm tired of pretending it's not happening. I'm tired of being nice about people who weren't nice to a 5-year-old kid. And I'm tired of the narrative that says I should welcome them back with open arms just because we share DNA. Here's the truth. Family isn't about genetics. It's about showing up. It's about being there when things are hard, not just when things are profitable. My grandmother was my family. The people who believed in me when I had nothing, they're my family. The person who challenges my burrito choices and makes me want to be better, she's more family than any of these people who want to suddenly be part of my success story." He saw Jessica in the back of the room, tears streaming down her face, smiling. "So to my biological parents and siblings, no, you don't get to be part of this. You don't get to claim credit for my success when you wanted nothing to do with my struggle. And to everyone else dealing with similar situations, you don't owe anyone your success just because they share your last name. You don't owe anyone who abandoned you." That's all I wanted to say. NexusFlow will continue to grow and innovate. I'll continue to work hard and honor my grandmother's memory. And I'll continue to surround myself with people who value me for who I am, not what I'm worth. Thank you. The room erupted. Questions flew from every direction. Dustin stepped away from the podium, ignoring them all, and walked straight to Jessica. "That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen," she said. "Still deciding which? Little bit of both. Kiss me, you dramatic idiot." So he did, in front of every camera in the room, and he didn't care about the optics at all. Part 8, in which things actually work out. Sort of. The fallout was immediate and intense. Half the internet called him a hero. The other half called him ungrateful and heartless. His parents gave interviews painting themselves as victims. Kyle started a GoFundMe claiming Dustin had ruined his life. It raised $63. The board had another emergency meeting. Dustin expected them to ask for his resignation. Instead, the chairman, a 70-year-old former CEO named Margaret, who had survived 3 market crashes and 2 divorces, just laughed. "Best press conference I've seen in 30 years, she said. "Our user acquisition is up 40%. Apparently, millennials appreciate radical honesty. Who knew? So I'm not fired? Fired? We're giving you a raise. Though maybe run the dramatic pronouncements by PR first next time. No promises." Jessica's article about the whole thing went viral.
She titled it, "The Ungrateful Art of Success, Why We Need to Stop Romanticizing Family Reconciliation." It was thoughtful, incisive, and completely fair to everyone involved, which meant everyone was mad about something in it, which meant it was good journalism. "I'm getting death threats from people who think I influenced you," she told Dustin over breakfast burritos, because some traditions are sacred. "Apparently, I'm a gold digger who manipulated you into abandoning your family." "That's ridiculous. You don't care about my money." "I care a little bit about your money," Jessica admitted. "I mean, the penthouse is nice, but mostly I care about you being a person who eats tacos and admits when he's scared and actually shows up." "Is this the part where we say I love you? Is that you asking or telling?" "Both?" "Good, because I love you too, you magnificent disaster of a human." They kissed across the table, and Dustin thought about how strange life was, how success hadn't brought him the family he'd lost, but it had led him to the family he'd chosen, how being honest about his pain had freed him from it, how sometimes the happy ending isn't about reconciliation or forgiveness, sometimes it's just about moving forward. Epilogue. 6 months later. Dustin stood in front of a crowd again, but this time it wasn't a press conference. It was a community center in the neighborhood where he'd grown up, and he was announcing the Rebecca Morrison Reading Memorial Scholarship, named for Gran, not his mother, because he was petty like that. This scholarship will provide full funding for coding education to kids from low-income families, he announced, because talent is universal, but opportunity isn't, and because my grandmother believed that everyone deserves a chance to succeed, regardless of their circumstances. The crowd, mostly families from the neighborhood, educators, kids who looked like he used to look, applauded. Dustin saw himself in their faces, hopeful and uncertain and hungry for something better. Jessica stood off to the side, taking photos for her next article. She'd moved in with him last month, bringing her chaos and her burritos and her complete refusal to be impressed by his success. It was perfect. His phone buzzed. Another message from his father. "I saw the scholarship announcement. I'm proud of you, son." Dustin deleted it without responding. Some bridges weren't meant to be rebuilt. Some people didn't deserve a second chance. And some happy endings didn't include forgiveness. Just peace. He looked out at the crowd, at the kids who reminded him of himself, at Jessica documenting it all, at the future he was building not despite his past, but because of it. "Questions?" he asked the audience. A small hand shot up, a girl, maybe 10, with glasses and determination in her eyes. "Did you really teach yourself to code?" "I really did." "Was it hard?" "The hardest thing I've ever done." "But you did it anyway?" "I did it anyway," Dustin confirmed, "because sometimes the best revenge is success, and sometimes the best family is the one you build yourself." The girl nodded, satisfied, and Dustin felt Gran's presence like a warmth in his chest. She would have liked this. The scholarship, the honesty, the refusal to pretend that DNA mattered more than dedication. After the event, Jessica drove them back to the city in her beat-up Honda Civic because she refused to let him buy her a Tesla. "You did good today," she said. "We did good today," Dustin corrected. "Your article about childhood poverty and tech education helped make this happen." Team effort, very romantic. The most romantic. They drove in comfortable silence for a while before Jessica spoke again. "Your dad texted again, didn't he?" "How did you?" "You get this look, like you've stepped in something unpleasant." "Accurate." "What did you do?" "Deleted it." "Good. You don't owe him anything, not even a response." "Sometimes I wonder if I'm being too harsh." "You're not. You're being appropriately harsh. There's a difference." Jessica reached over and squeezed his hand. "You're building something better than they ever gave you. That's not cruel. That's just living well." Dustin smiled. "The best revenge." "Exactly." They drove home through the San Francisco streets, past tech campuses and coffee shops, and the ordinary magic of a city in motion. Dustin thought about second chances and chosen family and the ungrateful art of success. How sometimes being grateful meant being honest about what you'd lost and what you'd gained and who deserved credit for which. His phone buzzed again. This time it was from the scholarship program director. "First round of applications is in. 347 kids applied. Reading through them, I keep thinking, one of these kids could be the next you." Dustin typed back. "One of these kids will be better than me. That's the point." Jessica glanced over. "Good news?" "The best news. We're going to change some lives."
Look at you, being optimistic. It's unsettling. I learned it from this journalist I know. She taught me that sometimes tacos are revolutionary, and time is a social construct, and family is what you make it. She sounds smart. She is. Also, she eats burritos at weird hours. A woman of many talents. They pulled into the parking garage of the penthouse. Their penthouse now, with Jessica's chaos mixing with his order in ways that somehow worked. As they rode the elevator up, Dustin reflected on the strange journey that had brought him here. From abandoned child to tech sensation, from seeking approval to refusing it, from being alone to being loved. The elevator doors opened and they stepped into their home. Not perfect, not traditional, but theirs. And that, Dustin thought, was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The end.
I love making these videos for you. If you liked this story, then please like, subscribe to my channel, and switch on the notifications for more entertaining stories. Please also leave a comment for any story suggestions.